The Third Jewish Revolt was the final act of defiance by the Jews against the powerful Roman Empire. While some consider this uprising to be a minor event in Roman history, it had a major impact on Jewish history. These developments changed the population structure of the region, erasing Judea from the map and creating a new region called Palestine. With this video, we will learn more about the events that led to this revolt and the effects of the conflict on the Jews. Bar Kokhba's Jewish revolt was sparked by the Jews' growing dissatisfaction with Roman rule in Judea. The socio-economic situation of Jewish farmers worsened from the beginning of Emperor Hadrian's rule, and the Roman government's attempts to stamp out Jewish culture escalated. Tensions rose when, in 131, the emperor decided to build the Roman colony Aelia Capitolina over Jerusalem, which became the likely immediate trigger for the revolt. The ban on circumcision and the construction of a temple devoted to Jupiter on the ruins of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem also contributed to their unrest. Contrary to previous revolts, the Jews strategically decided to prepare for the revolt and gave Hadrian some time to unravel what he had done in the ruins of the Jerusalem temple. Some moderate Jewish leaders, such as Rabbi Akiba ben Yosef, at first curbed the revolt, but Hadrian's unwillingness to meet Jewish demands to remove the temple of Jupiter, even after a tentative negotiation, led many Jews to join the radical faction. The rebels, during this run-up, built tunnels, wells, and hiding places throughout Judea, fortified strategic positions, and stockpiled armaments to wage war against the Roman forces. Simon bar Kokhba led the rebels, claiming to be a messianic leader sent to put an end to Roman oppression of the Jewish people. His background and education are uncertain, but his military strategy skills suggest that Bar Kokhba was part of the Jewish upper class. Rabbi Akiba, who also headed the Sanhedrin, gave Bar Kokhba his full support in leading the revolt against the Roman Empire. Furthermore, Akiba changed his name from Bar Kozia to Bar Kokhba, which means son of a star, and this influenced the Jewish people to rely on his leadership and trust that he could be their Messiah. Moreover, Eleazar the priest is featured on the rebels' coins, indicating his importance in leadership. His high priesthood and his connection with coin minting suggest a possible role in the civil religious authority of the revolt. Led by Bar Kokhba, the Jewish revolt was an unprecedented defiance of the Roman Empire's power. With skilled leadership and thorough preparations, the Jews proved to be formidable opponents against the Roman legions. Although difficult to pinpoint in number, the rebel forces totaled tens of thousands and used a variety of equipment initially sourced from defeated Roman armies. They lacked cohesion and training, but used many different weapons such as swords, spears, bows, and arrows, a proof of their versatility. By contrast, the Roman legionaries were highly trained and equipped. Bar Kokhba pursued a guerrilla strategy, surprising and expelling the local Roman garrisons. Initially based in Herodium and later in Betar, he plotted a protracted resistance to attract more fighters and avoided large-scale direct confrontations. Knowing the terrain and using tunnels allowed for effective ambushes, undermining the Roman legion's resolve to fight. The Jews' initial strategy entailed surprise attacks on the Roman garrisons, exploiting the legionaries' vulnerability as they marched. The tactics also comprised ambushes and surprise attacks on cities. The initial news of these raids was underestimated by the Roman governor, Quintus Tannaeus Rufus, who considered the events to be isolated outbreaks. The revolt grew, drawing in rebellious territory and forming an independent state, as evidenced by the coins minted celebrating the redemption of Israel. With the Jewish population joining the cause, the Roman legions, including Legio VI Ferrata and Legio X Fretensis, were rallied to contain the menace. The initial triumph of the Bar Kokhba revolt ultimately brought about the formation of a rebellious state in Judea. The Roman governor, Quintus Tannaeus Rufus, perceived the national religious ideology behind the revolt when Simon bar Kokhba was proclaimed Messiah by Rabbi Akiba. This led to the banning of public Torah teachings and Akiva's execution, although the accuracy of this story is unclear. The rebellion encompassed wide areas of Judea, including the Judean hills, the Judean desert, and parts of the Negev desert. Rufus, having a significant part of his province in the hands of the rebels, requested assistance from Hadrian the emperor. The emperor sent detachments of nearby legions to quell the rebellion. Legio III Gallica, Legio II Trajana, and Legio III Cyrenaica were dispatched from Syria, Egypt, and the East, respectively. Yet by the time these reinforcements arrived, it was already fall, the usual end of the military season. The relieved insurgents had time to prepare for the next Roman counterattack, gathering supplies, fortifying positions, and reinforcing their subterranean hideouts. The truce in the Bar Kokhba Revolt, perhaps used to bolster the rebel government, attracted more support, volunteers, and migrants. Now proclaimed Messiah, Bar Kokhba faced Roman pressure in the spring of 133, enduring constant attacks. Although no major battles were reported, the rebels repelled the Roman forces, and their hold persisted until 134. This continued success shaped their confidence in the stability of the rebel state, as reflected in local economic activity and legal issues. More Jews and people from other nations flocked to the cause, some out of belief and others in search of personal gain. Bar Kokhba viewed those who did not support his rebellion as a threat. After the destruction of the Second Temple, Jewish leaders may have turned their revolt into a pretext for dealing with Christians. The rebellious state of Judea lasted through the military season of 133, but in the winter, the conflicts intensified. Hadrian sent substantial reinforcements, including detachments from legions the 10th Gemina and the 12th Fulminata, under the command of Sextus Julius Severus. Other legions, such as the 5th Macedonica and the 6th Claudia, also joined in the repression. With around 60,000 men, the Roman army expressed the gravity of the effort to contain the Bar Kokhba revolt, stressing the challenge posed by the rebels. The rebellious army, led by Bar Kokhba, boasted a robust defense system and a considerable fighting force, with figures ranging from 100,000 to 200,000, although these are disputed. Military operations resumed in 134, with Sextus Julius Severus assuming Roman command. Roman tactics progressed, focusing on attacks on smaller groups, isolating the rebels, and cutting off their supply lines, and this gradually disbanded the rebel force. The Romans waged a brutal crackdown during the Bar Kokhba revolt, executing many rebels. During 134 AD, the Roman legions stepped up their repression, increasing their control over the state of Bar Kokhba. Rebel headquarters were relocated to the fortress of Betar, indicating pressure on the leadership. While there were signs of deteriorating cohesion and disorder among the insurgents, life went on as normal for civilians in Judea. In 135, the Romans resumed their offensive, raising Herodium and advancing into the Judean hills. The Romans besieged the fortress of Betar, where many refugees had congregated, including soldiers and civilians. The siege dragged on until the summer of 135, when the Romans stormed in, shelling the city and crippling its defenses. Bar Kokhba led the resistance, but sheer exhaustion and Roman military superiority resulted in the fall of Betar in August 135. The Romans slaughtered them indiscriminately, taking the lives of civilians and combatants, including Bar Kokhba, putting an end to the revolt. Roman persecution continued until 136, wiping out the last pockets of resistance. The Bar Kokhba revolt was an important milestone in ancient history, even if it only lasted 4 years, and apparently failed to produce any major changes in the Roman Empire at first sight. However, when we get a closer look, we see that it had major consequences. The revolt sealed the end of hopes of having the Jewish temple rebuilt, leading to the transition to rabbinical Judaism. Following his history, Hadrian decided to call the entire region that had previously been known as the province of Judea, Syria Palestina. By doing so, he most likely revived the region's old name, Philistia, which meant land of the Philistines, and joined it to neighboring Syria to weaken the Jewish connection to that territory. After the defeat, most Jews scattered around the world, and Judaism became more decentralized. The attempts to make Judea a place liberated from Roman rule fell apart, and eventually most Jews accepted their fate as part of the Roman Empire.